It is Monday, February 26th, 2018. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And it was a slightly lower energy, get your ass kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Monday, but certainly more informative. Spent a lot of time working the De La Riva today. And that's not really a guard that I've spent a whole lot of time on, and I found some minor difficulties with it. But I've been increasing the dexterity of my feet quite a bit, and that's one thing I love about jiu-jitsu is like your coordination just goes up like 8 billion notches with regard to your legs, and being able to contort and control them and shape them to what you need to do. And so yeah, today was, like I said, it was a little slower energy, or lower energy rather, but certainly educational. We worked a bit on the pressure of it. I had a lot of difficulty with the transition to seating up, though. It's something that I would definitely have to spend like a year working the De La Riva. I like it. Don't get me wrong. I do like the guard. I tend to like any guard that allows me to lock up my my opponent's one of my opponent's legs while they're standing and I'm on the ground. I find that there are certain leverage points that if you hit them just right, it doesn't take a whole lot of pressure. And you could take somebody and put them on their face. I need about maybe 12 inches of coverage with my hands on any part of your leg, and I think I can get you down with at least like a single leg or something like that. But I don't know, I have a lot of trouble with my head position. I end up on the outside of the hip all the fucking time, and it's like, dude, loop choke me, fucking guillotine me, come on, it's just a matter of time, you can sneak that hand under. And so, I've been really trying to work that, trying to stay really, really close in on the thigh and on the hip, and just above the groin area. Makes it a little bit uncomfortable, but you know what? If I got to spend 6 inches above your junk just to put you down, I'm going to fucking do it. I'm going to do it. I don't care. You're going down. I can get over my personal squeamishness, and I'm certainly secure about my sexuality at this point in life. So, it's not really an issue for me to just grab you just below the junk and throw your ass to the ground. But, I've always really enjoyed that position. I don't know what it is, where if I am on the ground and you're standing over me, you're not in a superior position. You can think you are, but if I'm able to, you're not going to stay standing for long. I'm going to get a hold of a foot, I'm going to slide up on your shin, I'm going to hook your knee, you're not going to stay vertical. I'm just going to slither up on you like a snake or a vine, and I'm going to put you on the ground. And whether I'm standing or whatnot afterward, that's a whole different question. But I like the dynamics of it, because also, if you do it right, you could either pull somebody straight into your guard, or in fact sweep them and get straight up full mount. And that kind of transition, I like that. That dynamism, you're going with the momentum of the movement and locking down into a submission from, an apparently superior position, fully superior. You're standing above the guy, and you're thinking you've got just options coming out your ears, and all of a sudden this guy turns into a pool of quicksand and just yanks your ass out from under you. That's the kind of thing I like about it. Next thing you know, you're getting your arm wrapped up or he's around your neck, and it's all over. Well, with that, we're going to go ahead and throw down into some music. And I have not been playing anything off of 0 Days, and I feel ashamed of that, because I really do love this album. And, this seems like the over or under crawling kind of theme, I think, in crypto over the last like 2 years. And so here it is, divide and conquer. First dance here on Coin Metal. I was just going to let it roll, but that was a little bit of Powerman 5000 there with Supernova Goes Pop. And I guess those guys are actually going to be going back out on tour, as well as, I guess, pardon me, I guess Helmet and Prong are going to be co-headlining. Now, why they aren't doing any West Coast shows is beyond me. And actually, I'm feeling kind of hurt by that, because they are amongst two of my favorite bands. They're going to be co-headlining, but they're not going to be playing within like 500 miles of me. So that means I either have to travel or miss out. I don't know. I'm not quite a deadhead about bands, but I don't know. Maybe if something were to come up, I would do something to that effect. But I'd have to make a lot of arrangements because, I just can't jump up from doing what I'm doing and, do something else for some indeterminate amount of time. So, I don't know. That's probably out. Same thing with Powerman 5000. What the fuck is it with you people? Schedule something like west of Nevada, please. I mean, come on. There's 3 states out here, and we really like you guys, so get your asses out here. I mean, really. You're talking about 3 bands that... Powerman 5000, I don't have enough of their stuff. I'll admit it right now. I've got the one album, and, it was really a taste tester because... there's always that stigma of the association between him and Rob Zombie. Sorry, man. It exists. It's a reality. But the thing is that Powerman 5000 has been very, very prolific. And they are a standalone band. They always have been a band that's... I mean, there's certain stylings that are similar to Rob Zombie and White Zombie, but it's distinctly Powerman 5000. I mean, there, like, when I say that, I mean like there's a little clip on there, an eye is on you or something like that, and that's very, to me anyway, it's similar to a presentation that I would get on a Rob Zombie album where there's horror film clips and stuff like that throughout the entire album. And I mean, that stuff's cool, but I mean, that's an association I have with Rob Zombie. Now, that's not to say that, Powerman 5000 couldn't do something similar and it being Powerman 5000 and not mimicking Rob Zombie. But, again, there's always that question, is he just like, does he have Rob Zombie in the booth with him and they both like work this out? And, I mean, if that's the case, cool. I couldn't think of anybody else I'd want to co-produce my album but Rob Zombie. I mean, I don't know. I think it's maybe an advantage kind of envy. It's like you've got this hyper-professional, ultra, like, professional guy with regard to both performances and recordings and production in your corner. Why wouldn't you want that? I mean, like, everybody should have access to somebody like that, or at least it would be awesome if they did. I'm sure they think so, at least. But I think maybe that's something of it. It's like, you've got Neil Peart, co-producing the album with you, or Rush. You got Rush helping you produce your album. I mean, that to me would be a similar thing, or if you had like Metallica, Metallica is co-producing your album with you. There's a little bit of an advantage differential there of experience, at least that others in your trade at your level might not have. And so yeah, I can see some of that, but nonetheless, I have always appreciated Powerman 5000's stuff as something kind of otherworldly. Like, when I first heard Powerman 5000, I did not even think Rob Zombie at all. I'm like, who the fuck are these guys? What the fuck is this song? And how do I get the album? That's all I thought. And so when I got it, it was like really, really cheap. And I'm like, fuck yeah! I mean, but it's an old album. It's like, I think 2000 something or other. I mean, it's early. Anyway, point being that I've listened to some of their stuff on YouTube. I have yet to put anything in the repertoire. But that's just the way I review stuff nowadays. You know, it's like if I hear about a band, I go to YouTube first. I want to hear the album, and I want to evaluate the album and say, do I or do I not want this in my repertoire? And that, I'm sorry, folks, that's just the way of things now. But I will tell you this. I've vastly increased the volume of my repertoire over the last, I don't know, like 2 or 3 years, because I've had YouTube to assist me in reviewing the fucking bands before I decide to make a purchase. And if I'm throwing down a decent amount of change for a new album, I want some sort of assurance that it's a decent album. You know what I mean? I guess it's like people forget about history, okay? There was a period of time somewhere in the, I want to say the quality drop-off was around 1990. You know, when CDs came into play, because of the cheapness of the media versus a tape and the amount of shit you could actually get on it, it meant everything got on it. And a lot of bands that otherwise wouldn't have gotten on a CD got on a CD and got distributed. And I mean, it was so bad that that you started getting shit like Milli Vanilli, okay, where they took somebody's song and they lip synced it. They made the video for it. They put it out first. They had it played all over the fucking radio stations. They put the album out. They tried lip syncing and performing the thing live and got busted. So, you know, I mean, but that happened in metal too. There were some instances where the product kind of got ahead of the band. You know, and I think we're paying the price for it now, because you're seeing bands that are well past what were previously considered quote unquote career primes, and really extending their period of their prime way beyond it's ever been. And they're out there performing. That's the difference, is that a lot of these bands from that period where they were one-hit wonders or whatever, they fizzled out in like 2 years. I remember it vividly because I was in Los Angeles County when KNAC first came online, and then the glam era came through, and then the grunge era came through, and it kind of, I found it really disturbing, because all of a sudden bands that I was seeing that when they started out, I would see them in places in Redondo Beach and elsewhere, like KNAC Night and also Pirate Radio, whatever those guys were. They would have a night on there's a venue in the pier at one point. I don't know if it's still there or not. It was like Pier 54 or something like that. Anyway, I was seeing bands there, like MX Machine and a few others, that they had really, really distinct sounds. You know, they were definitely, you know, them unto themselves. They didn't even sound like the other bands that were on the stage, right? Or that would go on the same stage. So I'd see like 3 or 4 bands a night, and they'd play like a 3 to 5 song set, you know, depending on the night. And I saw some really fucking quality bands. But then like the grunge era happened, or not the grunge, I'm kind of glamish, kind of fed into it a little bit. It didn't like get too harsh. I mean, but there was a lot of showmanship that wasn't lost. I mean, like that area, that's where Motley Crue really made their mark. And there was kind of a bad acidness about glam at that point. I mean, there was that feature of it. You know, Motley Crue, they had kind of a reputation. You know, but they earned it. They weren't given it. They earned that shit. And so, you know, when Metallica and whatnot came around, that was kind of a transition of power. But, you know, what I'm getting at is that there was this period during the 90s where you'd buy a CD. It'd have 2 good songs on it that they'd play on the fucking radio all the time. And then there'd be 14 shit songs on it that you would not have paid money for. And so, you know, you think you're getting value. You're like, oh man, it's got 16 songs on it. You know, it's $20. Woohoo! And then you get it home and you spin it and you're like, ow, my ass. I just got screwed. So, you know, you can try and blame the consumer for doing shit like torrenting and going on YouTube and either downloading or listening to the stuff. You can blame them all day long. But you know what? It's a response to the abuse that the serious music fan has endured at the music industry's hand. I mean, we're fortunate enough to have places like, you know, like Tower Records at one point or another where you could actually listen to some of the songs on the album. But that was a response to us recoiling from buying a fucking $20 CD and feeling that weird pain in our nether regions after having shelled out $20 for it. So, you know, again, you can blame the consumer for the way that we've responded, but these are legitimate responses to legitimate market pressures. You know, and we've gone through the same thing here in Bitcoin recently, and it's like a lot of people just aren't paying attention to it because the narrative, the public narrative, is that we need to drive it all off chain because it can't scale on chain. We've already seen 1,001 different ways that that's not true, but this narrative persists, and kind of bored of it, really. But the idea that, you know, we're just going to stay with Bitcoin and we're going to feel that pain in our nether regions every time we're paying a $30 or $40 or $50 fucking transaction fee, that's just so unreasonable. I mean, really, it's like it would be self-abuse to transact in Bitcoin at that point. See, I was transacting in crypto all through that. But you know what? I wasn't doing it in Bitcoin. I learned my lesson there. And so, you know, it's like, that's why we had things like Bitcoin maximalists, I guess, because they want to conceive of this as something that can be monopolized in one way or another. And we've seen that the market just doesn't tolerate that shit. And even the promise, the quote-unquote promises of Lightning Network. I had to tell some kid today on Twitter that Lightning is actually going to make transactions slower. He didn't understand the differential between how Lightning works and how Bitcoin is supposed to work without that third party in there. It's like, what kind of bullshit are you being sold that you think that your transaction is going to clear to the Bitcoin blockchain faster than a transaction that's actually broadcast to the Bitcoin blockchain via your Lightning network that is off-chain? It's going to be off-chain for a minimum of a block. So that's 10 minutes out. And there's talk of them being open, quote-unquote, indefinitely. This means months before all of the transactions actually settle to the Bitcoin blockchain. Now, I want you to think about that. Going from 10 minutes for your first confirmation in a perfect world, on a perfect day, there's not that many transactions for that 10-minute period. The mempool is fucking clear. You know, something wonderful has happened, something bad has happened, we don't know. Under perfect circumstances, your transaction should clear, get its first confirmation within 10 minutes. First confirmation. Not, it was verified, it was validated. No. First confirmation on the Bitcoin blockchain. Been confirmed by the miners included in a block on the motherfucking blockchain. That's what I'm talking about. That's the standard that we can expect here in Bitcoin. Why anybody is willing to accept less than that is fucking beyond me. It's fucking ridiculous. It's like you've got this, the simplest means of transacting monetary value that has ever fucking exist. Man, show the motherfucker your receive address, he can scan you the money. Have him show you his fucking receive address, you can scan him some fucking money. That's how this shit's supposed to fucking work. That's the standard that we have here. But no. We can't keep that working like that. No, because it can't scale that way. No. We got to involve a third party and we've got to entrust with them our monetary value until we've managed to spend it all. So I'm going to give them my Bitcoin and they're going to give me the dollar value of that to be spent. Now it doesn't matter, and I'm not even for sure on that. It could actually appreciate with the value of Bitcoin, which I don't know how you would do because that seems like it would just be a fucking nightmare. I mean, because what? Now the value of the massage I got goes up in value over time too? Because that's what you're exchanging. If I spend some Bitcoin for a massage, the person who received the Bitcoin thought it was, worthy of doing the transaction with. But what if they hold on to it and it just kept appreciating over time? Now, if I put the money in the Lightning Network, am I going to be credited the continuing valuation of my Bitcoin going up, appreciating in value on the open market, or is it just I'm going to get an IOU issued to me to be spent on this fucking network equivalent to the value of the Bitcoin that I deposited on the network at the time that I deposited it? I mean, I don't even hear anybody answering that one. I mean, I get the impression that I would just be storing my Bitcoin on this chain. But I mean, again, that's kind of custodial, isn't it? If it's not in my hands, it's in somebody else's hands. And I mean, I know there's some mucky muck stuff that says it's yours, but can't those conditions be changed without your knowledge? And again, there's one thing I've listened to Rick Falkvinge about this. I guess that's the pronunciation of his name. I don't know. If I ever get the guy on here, I'll ask him. But he talks about the aspects of the Lightning Network that, in the testnet, there's no quote-unquote adversarial or bad actors. Everybody's kind of like, playing kumbaya there on the Lightning Network. But like, what if you did have a bad actor? What if you did have, say, a bank running the whole thing? And there, I listened to Andrew Santonopoulos talk about this, and I'm sure because I've got 20/20, vision on what he's saying, meaning he said it already. There's that differential of understanding there that I could actually pause it and sit there for a moment and go, how does that work? And anyway, point being, I was listening to him talk about it, and I don't know, it seems to me that there could be the possibility that all of the nodes are owned by the same person. Because Andrew Santonopoulos is talking about how there'd be this autopilot thing with regard to routing the transaction, right? Well, okay, so what if all the nodes belong to people that I don't like or don't want to do business with or don't want to reward with my transaction fees? That choice is now taken away from me. because my wallet's autopiloting for me. And I guess this is one of those points that I guess is just lost on a lot of the people that are proponenting this, is there's an intrinsic loss of choice with all of this. If the money is in your hands, you have the ultimate discretion of how it is distributed. You know, people could request it of you, but they can't actually make you give it to them. There's no means of taking it from you if you have it in your possession. And I guess this is, you know, because I mean, they talk openly about people taking funds in the Lightning Network. You know, oh, if there's a bad actor, oh, you get to take his bitcoins. What the fuck is that? I mean, we've gone from permissionless to do what I fucking tell you, or I get to take your fucking Bitcoin. I guess people aren't fucking hearing that part of it. That's what it says to me. You will spend your money with the people that we say you can spend your money with. If you try to spend your money with somebody else, we're gonna fucking take your Bitcoin. 'Cause it's in our possession now. Fuck you. Anyway, sometimes you just got to get smacked upside the head with a cold dead fish to get a little perspective. Let's see what we've got here in the old Twitter fed tabs of my browser. This one is kind of entertaining to me, considering the most recent developments with regard to Circle. Some of you may or may not be aware of this, but apparently Circle has purchased Poloniex, and for a meager $400 million. Now, I've got to think that either A, they're looking at the possibility of some sort of liability, you know, like maybe a hacking or something like that made them suddenly a lot less worth a lot less than they actually said they were, you know. And so yeah, $400 million for a cryptocurrency exchange. I don't know, you know, when they were just Poloniex, working as Poloniex, there had been, and I guess there still is, some wonder as to whether or not they're going to have Verge currency on their exchange. I don't know if that's ever changed. Honestly, I've never really paid attention because my experience with Poloniex was I didn't really like it. Out of all of the exchanges that I've been working with, I mean, some people like Polo, and you know, more power to you, man. If you enjoy it, it's working for you, enjoy it. Just that I'm going by my experience in this space as a trader, and I didn't really like that one. I didn't really like Bitfinex either. I've never liked Bitfinex. Like the only trades that I ever made any money on had been sitting on that exchange for months and months and months and months and months. I mean, like I tried trading at narrower bands, you know, narrower intervals, and it just didn't work. You know, I would get my shit eaten, and yeah, between transaction fees and everything, I was just eating up my volume, you know. But yeah, so I opened up my time interval a bit, and so, you know, I became the corpse that you walk over on your way into the crime scene, and the delineators you see on the way out. Anyway, here it is. Goldman Sachs, latest bank to label crypto a business risk. And this is on altcointoday.com. Investment banking giant Goldman Sachs. You know what? Wait a minute. Hold on one moment. Before we get any farther into this, I'm not seeing attribution. Who is the motherfucker that wrote this? And it's very short, so Aha! Fuckers! They almost did it to me. They almost got me. It had 2 paragraphs and no attribution. That's an immediate signal that it's on somebody else. It's aggregated from another source. So, there you go. Let that be a lesson to you. Anyway, this was the original source, Coindesk.com. Goldman Sachs, latest to label crypto a business risk. And this is by our old friend Stan Higgins. So yes, penis. And this was authored February 26, 2018 at 1700 UTC. Investment banking giant Goldman Sachs has cited its connection to cryptocurrencies and blockchain as a potential business risk. Public records show. In a way, the disclosure echoes one published last week by Bank of America, which warned at the time that it faces both competitive and compliance risks as a result of the technology. According to the February 26 filing, which constitutes its annual report for the fiscal year 2017, Goldman believes that it might be impacted because of its work with clients and the companies it has invested in. Goldman is an investor in payment startup Circle, which announced today that it had acquired crypto exchange Poloniex and is one of a number of investment banks that offers its customers access to both Bitcoin futures markets, as reported as by Bloomberg earlier this year. The both was mine, sorry. The company wrote, quote, "We may be or may become exposed to risks related to distributed ledger technology through our facilitation of clients' activities involving financial products linked to distributed ledger technology, such as blockchain or cryptocurrencies. Our investments in companies that seek to develop platforms based on distributed ledger technology and the use of distributed ledger technology by third-party vendors, clients, counterparties, clearinghouses, and other financial intermediaries." Ethereum. While no obvious connection was drawn, the risks highlighted, particularly on the cryptocurrency front, may form part of the reason why Goldman has thus far eschewed any closer involvement in the market. In January, CEO Lloyd Blankfein denied a past report that the investment bank was eyeing the launch of a dedicated trading desk for Bitcoin, though he did leave the door open for such a move at a later date. Quote, "We're a prime broker, and so if our clients are going to do it, we're going to do it. A principal Bitcoin business where we're going long and short market making. So far, we're not," he said at the time. And yeah, so there you have it. The dissociation of association, or I don't know how to explain it, where you have Goldman at the center of several groups. This is kind of, I guess, their own offshoot where they acquired Circle and now Circle acquired Poloniex. Supposedly, they're all still their own singular entities. Now, why they would need the involvement of Goldman or or Circle or any of the above is, I think, just to give a legal differential between the entities, probably taxation reasons or some shit like that. And so, with regard to this, I think they got wrecked. I think they got wrecked in this latest tumble. They were projecting that the long would go a little longer than it did, and they got caught short. They got margin called. And so, yeah. I think that the same could probably be said for Poloniex. It's probably why they're only valued at $400 million when they were purchased by Circle. Like I said, that just stinks to high hell to me. You know, a cryptocurrency exchange, supposedly a solvent one, a relatively popular one, it's only worth $400 million on its books. That just doesn't jive to me. And I don't know. There's a link right here. Let's check this thing out. And yeah, fuck it, we'll go with it. It's current. Crypto exchange Poloniex acquired by payment startup Circle. Oh, which, by the way, at one point or another, Circle had decided to stop doing transactions or business in Bitcoin. Although that was like their original purpose, I guess. Anyway, continuing on. And this is by Nicolesh D. And it's on Coindesk.com. And so, from the picture here, yes, penis. February 26, 2018 at 14:53 UTC. Updated February 26, 2018 at 21:11 UTC. Good follow-up, Nicolesh. Continuing on. Circle announced Monday that it has acquired the U.S.-based cryptocurrency exchange Poloniex, confirming recent rumors about the deal. In a statement, Poloniex said its team would be bolstered by the operational and customer support resources from Circle, so that we can continue to scale effectively going forward. We recognize that our extraordinary growth these past few years has not come without some growing pains for our users. We look forward to bringing Circle's experience to increase the scalability and reliability of our platform and operations. Rumors about the acquisition had been in the air for weeks prior to Monday's announcement. On February 2nd, a report on the Modern Consensus said that Circle is, quote, deep in discussions to acquire Poloniex. Fortune's Robert Hackett reported today that, according to a source with knowledge of the deal, Circle paid roughly $400 million to buy out Poloniex, which launched in 2014. They were insolvent. If they bought it out, they had creditors. Commenting on the deal, Circle said that it plans to build on the work done previously by the Poloniex team, setting the goal of pushing it past being, quote, an exchange for only crypto assets. Quote, we envision a robust, multi-sided distributed marketplace that can host tokens which represent everything of value: physical goods, fundraising, and equity, real estate, creative productions such as works of art, music, and literature, service leases, and time-based rentals, credit futures, and more, co-founders Jeremy Allaire and Sean Neville wrote. In its own statements, Poloniex stressed that its users would see no disruption of services during the transition, writing that, quote, any updates we make in the course of this transition will be behind the scenes and focused on strengthening user experience, platform performance, and security. Quote, your funds will remain safe and access to account functionality uninterrupted throughout, the exchange added. Yeah, well, I'll believe it when I see it. Hey, you know, I like I said, this stinks high hell to me. You know, for one thing, they're behind on user experience. That usually means that they've been redistributing funds that should have been going into like customer service and additional security reviews and shit like that, and going into cocaine and hookers and vacations in the Bahamas and these Bitcoin meetups and so on and so forth, i.e. a maldistribution of funds. You know, they're already in the hole, you know, because apparently they just got bought out. their interest got bought out. The stakeholders got bought out. So what percentage of Poloniex did they really have if they got bought out for $400 million? And so this is kind of being mislabeled. They're saying it's a buyout. But really all that's changed hands is the remaining interest that the originals or the original owners had in Poloniex, which I'd wager was relatively tiny, so they probably got about, going by that number, I would say that the remaining stake that the original owners had in Poloniex to be bought out for $400 million was probably less than an eighth of the total value of the company. So maybe 15, 17%, 14 to 17% of the stake was actually theirs to sell. So yeah, nothing is going to change because it was already somebody else's shit. It's pretty much all there is to that one. But I don't know. There was a question as to whether or not they'd actually gotten Verge on there, and let's look at that. We've got the Google. We can use it too. Poloniex. It's kind of hard to type with one hand, but I do it because I like this mic. Poloniex Verge. Because we got to find out. Soon. And that was back in October 2nd of 2017. Let's see here. No? Let's see here. Let's look at for recent here. Tools, time, we'll go week. Poloniex Digital Exchange, blah, 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 blah. No. And let's see here. We'll try XVG and see if we get better results. VG. And nope. Coin requests. Poloniex hashtag. Yeah. No. I'm not seeing it. So yeah, there we go. It's been all this time. They've never added Verge. They got acquired, and they never added Verge. What's that tell you? I mean, I know Verge is legit. I've been using the fucking thing for quite a while now. So, what gives? I mean, they got some issue in the background going on that we don't know about. Who knows? And we'll never know now unless one of the original owners or whatever comes forward and does some tell-all or whatever. Tells about all the cocaine and hookers they did while they were supposed to be doing work, like customer service and shit like that. Stuff that matters. User experience. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. And I'm feeling the need for some Static X here. And I've got quite a bit of... I can't seem to find Wisconsin Death Trip. I know for a fact I bought it. And I'm pretty damn sure I loaded it up. And I think I might have actually played Push It at one time. But I can't find it right now. So, let's go for Shadow Zone here on Coin Metal. And that was Fear Factory with Obsolete. Yeah, I love that song. But you got to listen to a Fear Factory album from beginning to end to get the full context for the song. There's a lot more storyline going on there than, man's obsolete. There's a storyline about an artificial intelligence as it's evolving. And all of their albums are the story of this entity's life. And I I find it very interesting. I think it's a very compelling story, and I have not purchased any of their later stuff, though. I think Obsolete's... No, I bought Concrete on Concreto or something like that, and I didn't really like it all that much. Kind of lost a little bit of a flavor for Fear Factory, and it seemed like Burton C. Bell was migrating off to do projects with Ministry at an increasing rate. So, I don't know. And it seems like there's a song with him featured as the singer or lyricist or whatever. I don't know. He's on the latest Ministry project. I don't know how deep his involvement is, but that takes away time from your other projects. So the likelihood that we're going to be seeing Fear Factory anytime soon, I don't know, maybe like a co-headline or something with Ministry. That'd be pretty badass. Or, I don't know, opening for Ministry or something to that effect. Anyway, got this this thing on CNBC, and you know, I've heard people be very critical of the fact that John McAfee has been hacked several times since involving himself within the cryptosphere. I just got to say this: hacked happens. Fuck, I get hacked. I've extracted that fucking minor virus in my shit more than once, so it happens. You know, I've had to do complete system rinse and douches and all that other shit, nuke and pave it, to take care of it. So, you know, hacked happens. That's all there is to it. But in the cryptosphere, there is the additional threat of outright fraud, because some people just don't know how to play nice, and they certainly do not know how to make good on their promises. So they kind of make a job of not making good on their promises. Anyway, so this is on CNBC.com. Steve Wozniak says someone stole 7 Bitcoin from him. Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak had some Bitcoin stolen from him, the Economic Times of India reported Monday. And we're going to click there because we're not going to give CNBC credit for the Indians. Here we go. And this is on Economic Times, IndiaTimes.com. Would you believe this? Steve Wozniak's Bitcoin actually got stolen. And this is by Sujuta Reddy. No indication of penis. Authored on February 26, 2018, 10:21 a.m. Indian Standard Time. Would you believe this? Steve Wozniak's Bitcoins actually got stolen. Steve Wozniak has an inventive mind, so it comes as no surprise that he's a fan of Bitcoin. The Apple co-founder spoke at the ETGBS about what made him a fan of the cryptocurrency. Quote, Bitcoins to me was a currency that was not manipulated by the governments. It is mathematical. It is pure. It can't be altered. Okay, that's a lot of faith, dude. Unfortunately, all of this doesn't safeguard Bitcoin from fraud. The American inventor and philanthropist told a full house at the summit how his own Bitcoins got stolen. The blockchain identifies who has Bitcoins. That doesn't mean there can't be fraud, though. I had 7 Bitcoins stolen from me through fraud. Somebody bought them from me online through a credit card, and they canceled the credit card payment. It was that easy, and it was from a stolen credit card number, so you can never get it back, said Wozniak. Asked about his experience of investing in Bitcoin when they were going at $700 a piece and then selling them for a fortune when the price shot up, Wozniak said that he did not invest in Bitcoins. He bought them as an experiment. I had them so that I could someday travel and not use credit cards, wallets, or cash. I could do it all with Bitcoin. I studied which hotels and facilities accepted Bitcoin. It's still very difficult to do so. I tried to buy things online and trade Bitcoin online. So why did he sell them? Because I didn't want to watch the price every day. I sold all except one. It was enough to experiment, added Wozniak. So there you have it. Hacked and fraud doth happen. You know, I don't know. Why would you bother canceling it if it was a stolen credit card? I mean, I suppose if you're already stealing credit card numbers, that, you know, defrauding people for Bitcoin really isn't a big jump either. You know, but that to me is sad. Why would you try and sell 7 Bitcoin with a credit card transaction? I don't know. I would be trying to go for cash, I think. I don't know. That's just me. But yeah, you know, fraud happens. And you can only do so much to watch out for your own bunghole. But I tended to stick with quote unquote trustworthy entities, or, you know, as trusted as can possibly be within this space. And, you know, there's plenty of room for improvement with regard to that. But at the same time, it's not all that bad. So, you know, we can bitch and complain about it. But you can do certain things to lessen the possibility of experiencing what Mr. Wozniak did. And, you know, why not just sell them on an exchange, dude? I mean, really, if you're going to sell them, why not sell them that way? I don't get it. Maybe he was buying something for him that he didn't want to claim. I don't know. Anyway, I got this other one here, and this one's got to be at least as humorous. Coindesk.com, global AML watchdog to step up crypto money laundering scrutiny. God damn, make a better use case for fucking Verge, people. Come on. Anyway, this is authored by Wolfie Zhao. Clearly, yes. From the picture, penis. This was authored February 26, 2018, 1300 UTC. The Financial Action Task Force, FATF, a global intergovernmental body that aims to tackle financial crime, has said it will step up its efforts in monitoring the use of cryptocurrencies in money laundering. This is fucking humorous. According to a memo published last Friday of its latest meeting, the task force said it has taken on board the findings of a recent report regarding the risks of cryptocurrency money laundering and the regulatory measures being adopted in different countries. As a result, the FATF has decided to implement additional initiatives to address the risks of cryptocurrency in money laundering. Founded in 1989, the task force consists of ministers from its member jurisdictions who help determine standards and execute legal, regulatory, and operational measures to fight money laundering, terrorist financing, and cross-border financial crimes. That's fucking humorous, man. You've been failing on all fronts, I gotta tell you, man. Although the agency has yet to put out a concrete policy for implementation, the meeting nonetheless signals growing attention from worldwide regulators over illicit uses of cryptocurrency that could undermine the global financial system. In fact, according to South Korean news agency Yonhap, the country's financial regulator, the Financial Service Commission, was required to brief another 36 member states on its work bringing in anti-money laundering compliance rules for domestic cryptocurrency exchanges. As reported previously by CoinDesk, South Korea had long been allowing exchanges in the country to offer trading services for investors via anonymous accounts, which, according to the South Korean Customs Agency, helped facilitate unregistered movement of over $600 million in capital. South Korea subsequently banned anonymous trading accounts and is now requiring exchange platforms to put in place real name verification of accounts before resuming operations. I'm just going to tell you right now, this, just like their last movement on cryptocurrencies, will end in like fiery flames, like a fiery flame out. It's not going to work. We've all seen this series of events repeatedly now, where somebody will talk tough about cryptocurrencies. Then they find out their boss, or their kid, or their boss's kid, or their niece, or their nephew, or their auntie, or their grandma, or somebody is invested in cryptocurrencies and is making money, and then they say, maybe regulating this isn't such a good idea. Maybe we ought to, take a step back and kind of, investigate this a little longer. Get a real grasp on the situation. Meanwhile, grandma or niece or auntie or nephew, they're telling them, buy, you fucker, buy, sell. Give me a fucking break. This shit is so magnetic to that mentality. I mean, it's game theory, people. Game theory. We've seen it all play out. Every single prediction. See, I was around at the beginning of this shit, and there were predictions galore concerning how it would express in the public sphere once it got to mainstream adoption or at least awareness. And we predicted every fucking bit of it. Every bit of it. The ones that I find most humorous are where the authorities start busting minors. This was one that I think I predicted at one point, and I know somebody else must have predicted it by now. That what would happen is the authorities would recognize what was going on. They would see that all of this wealth was occurring in the hands of the public and they weren't getting a cut, and they would want to put that to a stop because it's competition for their boodle. So, we got to force people to transact in bolivars. We got to crack down on them because what they're doing is they're going over to Bolivia with their fucking Bitcoin, and they're ordering shit on Amazon to be delivered to sites in Bolivia and then carrying the shit across the border, and they're able to sustain themselves without having to use the fucking bolivar. We got to put a stop to this shit, right? So what happened? The cops would bust the miners. They would confiscate the gear. And then they would set it up at home. They wouldn't arrest the miners. They get them on some energy infraction or some bullshit. You're using too much of our free electricity or some shit like that. Because they're really dependent on their hydroelectric. They got fucking hydroelectric dams all over the place. Anyway, point being is the fucking cops would set the miners up in their houses and they would start mining. And so the next step after that was this. Did the miners stop mining? No. They would get gaming rigs that would have multiple video cards, and they'd fucking mine Ethereum or other altcoins with them. and sell them for Bitcoin or Ethereum or something else that they could transact with the people in fucking Bolivia and buy their groceries and shit like that over Amazon. And now it's gotten to the point where Maduro is like, oh, we're going to make our own state cryptocurrency and we're going to back it with our oil reserves. I've already outlined multiple times on this show why that will not work. Just fucking won't work. I'm not going to go through it again. If you'd like to listen to it, I don't know. I may end up going through it again at some point or another tonight. But if you would like to hear it in concise detail, I have posted that on my YouTube channel. It's, Commodity-backed cryptocurrencies or tokens, the triple layer mystery cake of crypto. And that's exactly what it is, a triple layer mystery cake. You know, like I said, you'll have to listen to it to get that. But, yeah, like I said, they get that far. They find out that some other governing official, somebody above them, you know, somebody of their family, they find out that person is making a significant sum of money by investing and trading in cryptocurrencies or mining cryptocurrencies or whatever, and they just STF you. They're just like, no, I'm not going to threaten that person's revenue stream because I want them to think very well of me, or I want them to fucking pay me. One or the other. But it's the same reason we never find out who the hackers are that crack these exchanges. You invariably find out it's some fucking bank or it's some fucking government or a proxy working for the same. And you say, okay, maybe we don't need to investigate that. Maybe we don't need to find out who that person is. You know? This shit's predictable. You know, I'll give you another one that's really predictable. Lightning Network. You want to know a prediction for that one? I've said it a million times on this show, but I see in that the perfect point to be monopolized by some bank. You know, we've already talked about Goldman Sachs. They bought an exchange through one of their subsidiaries, Circle. And what the fuck do you want? What more proof do you want? They haven't stopped competing. They're encroaching in on the space with purpose. So, you know, there's only going to be so long before they really start playing up the fact that, oh, we're so regulated and we're so compliant, and why can't you be compliant like us? You know what's going to end up happening? South Korea is going to keep dithering on their whole identity policy. Their exchanges are going to be accepting accounts from people in America and all over the fucking place that's whacking off talking about this kind of regulation, and the volume's going to get lost. You know, I mean, it's like we say this stuff and people treat it like it's wholly conceptual, right? No. I'm saying this stuff because I've been observing markets like this for a very, very long time. Like China, I predicted a long time ago. China would put their foot only so far on the throat of cryptocurrency before it just said, you know what, fuck you. We're going to move somewhere else. And now you got miners moving to China, Canada. And a half a dozen other fucking places that never had miners before. But they've got cheaper electricity, and they don't give a fuck whether or not you're mining there. You're drawing money to their economy. And that's going to continue. I am telling you right now, cryptocurrency is the mutually assured destruction fucking quagmire of the 21st century. Because invariably, you squeeze, it goes somewhere else. They squeeze, it comes back to you. You know, you got the NYDFS is reconsidering their position on the fucking bit license. Maybe they need to modify it a little bit. Give me a fucking break. We predicted that for a long time too. They're gonna loosen up the strictures just a little bit, enough to draw, you know, a casual amount of business to New York, so it doesn't look like a fucking digital gulag to everybody in cryptocurrency. And they'll let you in a little bit, and then they'll just squeeze you out again. I said it on Twitter that this is what you get for trying to play the game by their rules. They can beat you all day long by their rules. That's why you don't do it according to their fucking rules. You don't have to do it according to their rules, so why do it according to their rules? They are coming to you. Why do you feel the need to be like them? The reason people are going to you instead of them is because you're better than them. So why would you want to be like them? You see how that works? Of all of the things to quote-unquote hodl, I think your original principles are the most important and certainly the most valuable. Because otherwise, I think you're just bait and switching and frauding and potentially frauding and all that other business. As long as your shit does what you say it does, and it actually fulfills on the promises that you do make, it's all good. There's no guarantees in Bitcoin, and we accept that. Because 99.99999 times out of 10, it actually operates the way it's supposed to. When the conditions are right, of course, now. But that's an artificially introduced issue. It is artificially introduced, and don't let anybody tell you differently. We can, quote-unquote, scale on-chain. Bitcoin Cash has proven it. So the idea that it's somehow going to lock out some significant portion of fuck you. You're full of shit. The market will adapt to the conditions. Bump the fucking block size limit up to 16 megabytes so everybody that doesn't want to do their transactions off-chain can do their transactions on-chain at a reasonable price. And all the people that want to do their shit via Lightning networks can do their shit at a really, really fucking cheap price. And everybody's happy. But this bullshit that you're going to confine everybody down to, no, you've got to fit your transaction within this one megabyte block, or you can go fuck off until the first confirmation happens. I got people bragging on my fucking Twitter feed about how the transaction fees are going down and all this bullshit. Fuck you. I did a transaction from one exchange to another, a big exchange, one that supposedly is adopting SegWit. And the last time I checked, it had not received its first confirmation, and that it had been an hour. And I paid more than $10 for a fucking transaction fee. To me, that's completely fucking unreasonable for Bitcoin. That's not meeting the promises of Bitcoin. 10 minutes. That's how long my first confirmation should take. If it takes longer than that and costs me more than 10 fucking bucks to do it, then the fucking blocks are too small. And we need more block space to fit more fucking transactions in. And to run around and deny that and fucking act like in 2 years when you've got your Lightning network at production level where I can actually use it, your window is closed. If you didn't figure it out the first time you broke $20,000 or got to $20,000, you're going to fucking figure it out again. You're already at $10,000 at Bitcoin, and it's only going to continue to go up because there is the aspect of fiat inflation. But that's not going to save your ass forever. And you need the miners no matter which way you do fucking Bitcoin, because they are the ones that mine the blocks. And as long as you think you can jerk off without them, you're going to continue to weaken the network because they're going to go to other coins. I mean, you think that you're going to keep the rest of the global market from honoring and transacting in other cryptocurrencies just because you dropped the fucking ball? Fucking high! Fucking high People came to Bitcoin from other currencies for a reason. They're going to leave Bitcoin to go to other currencies for this reason if you keep it up. I mean, that's all there is to it. I mean, yeah, I don't know how else to put it. Supposedly, Coinbase has introduced SegWit to 25% of their population of customers, and I watched SegWit Party. The thing is bumped 1%. That doesn't tell me that everybody wants SegWit. That tells me that people are going to continue rejecting it as long as they can. That's my perspective. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. And I'm feeling the need for some Faith No More. Epic. Here on Coin Metal. And that was Nevermore with Sentient 6. It's a shame Mr. Worrell is no longer with us. Or Worrell? I'm not entirely certain how that was pronounced. Either way, yes, fantastic singer. And I said even while the man was still alive, I said that I thought he sounded like Jeff Tate would if Jeff Tate had an additional testicle. Because there's just certain things that Worrell sung that I don't think that Jeff Tate could have sung. That's just me, but yeah, I don't think he could have managed. Anywho, getting back down to it. So yeah, it doesn't matter how experienced you are, you still get ganked occasionally. It just happens. And I got this interesting little article. There's been like a question as to whether or not certain parties have been Satoshi Nakamoto or were Satoshi Nakamoto or whatever. And there have been a variety of people who have actually claimed this. Why you would want to claim such a thing is beyond me. I mean, because you've got a million Bitcoin price tag on your fucking head if that's the case. You know, I mean, personally, I think that if Satoshi Nakamoto is still alive, that he is either in some place that doesn't have any kind of U.S. extradition laws, or he or she could very well be a woman, could be somewhere that there is no way for U.S. authorities to get a hold of them or whatever. You know, the instinct to bail the moment there was any involvement in the CIA or with the CIA, wise move. Personally, I think there's a distinct possibility that Satoshi Nakamoto is actually dead, having been offed. But I don't know. I like to hold out the possibility that he or she is still alive and kicking out there. And most certainly freaking the fuck out with the direction that they're wanting to take Bitcoin in. I think Lightning Network, fuck you. Anyway, I got this article here. And, let's see here. Yeah, that's funny you should mention that, CC. I have a response from Telegram where CC66 is saying, Frank Dashwood, I thought Craig Wright was Satoshi. Well, it's funny you should say that, because we have an article apparently from the future. Apparently it was written in the future, but I'm getting it now. It was authored February 27th, 2018. Kleeman v. Craig Wright, the Bitcoins that never were. Today, some news landed about a $10 billion lawsuit against Craig Wright. And you know what? We're going to right-click that, because that might actually be a normal article that we can dive into as well. The Australian man who claimed to be Satoshi Nakamoto, that was Craig Wright, by the way, the pseudonymous inventor of Bitcoin. And it is an interesting read, but unfortunately for anyone involved, its claims have a little basis in reality. The lawsuit purports that Wright fraudulently acquired large numbers of Bitcoins owned by Dave Kleeman through forging various documents. but the very existence of those Bitcoins in the first place is just another fantasy. I had previously seen some of the material included as exhibits in the lawsuit, and my opinion was that all the documents that made specific testable claims as owning Bitcoins were relatively easy to debunk as simple backdated forgeries, possibly for use in Wright's alleged tax fraud schemes. Alleged. I don't know. I am not a lawyer, but it seems somewhat fitting that Wright now finds himself sued by someone taking many of those claims at face value, as Wright's seemingly only defense would be to allow those prior claims to be proven false. The lawsuit. The lawsuit brought by Dave Kleeman's relatives. My apologies on that. Kleeman passed away in 2013. Largely recounts the story as presented by Craig Wright, in public or privately, that Wright and Kleeman together were involved in the creation of Bitcoin and owned a large number of Bitcoins, taking these claims at face value. At the same time, the lawsuit represents Wright as fraudulent and untrustworthy, having forged a number of documents for various financial gains. Ultimately, this is the case of self-serving reasoning that doesn't hold up to scrutiny. If Wright falsifies and invents facts to suit his own purposes in one part, why would he be considered a trustworthy source for the other information? Most of Wright's narrative is full of holes and provably false, and the lawsuit spends much of its time recounting Wright's numerous lies over time. Time to connect the final dots and include the so-called 1,100,000 Bitcoins in the list of falsehoods. The Bitcoins that never were. Throughout the many included exhibits, here are some of the many Bitcoins that are in one way or another claimed to have been part of Wright's and Kleeman's alleged involvement in Bitcoin. Let's see, 110,000 Bitcoin, Exhibit 4, claimed to be, in this Bitcoin address, claimed to be, quote, held in escrow as part of a transfer of Bitcoin from Kleeman to Wright in exchange for shares in a new company. However, this is just a withdrawal address associated with an entirely unrelated user of Mt. Gox and has nothing to do with either Kleeman or Wright. The next one is another address, 335,000 Bitcoin, Exhibit 10, claimed to be owned by Wright and supposedly used to lend Kleeman 50,000 Bitcoin as part of a software development licensing and financing agreement. However, this is actually an internal Mt. Gox address descending directly from Mark Carpelli's famous 424.4242 proof of solvency transaction in 2011. Interesting, and it actually shows the line of custody of those funds. The next one, Exhibit 10, 250,000 Bitcoin, same as above, claimed to be owned by Wright and supposedly used for a 250,000 Bitcoin loan. However, this address actually belongs to original Mt. Gox founder Jeb McCaleb. Here, the document even gets the transaction it's referring to backwards, reinforcing the idea that Wright was not familiar with the transaction, but merely found it on the blockchain, including its details in a background document to suggest foreknowledge and hence ownership. Various addresses amounting to 650,000 Bitcoin claimed to be, and this was Exhibit 11, claimed to be held by Ewan Nguyen, and lent to Craig Wright. Let's go through them one by one and see what we know about these from blockchain analysis. Names of people not already well known redacted. The first one was unknown, the second one was a Mt. Gox user, the third one was first major Mt. Gox theft, next one is unknown, next one is unknown early miner, next one is Jeb McCaleb, unknown, next one unknown early miner, next one from mybitcoin.com, next one unknown early miner, next one unknown, next one part of a long chain of transactions that sent minor amounts to a BTCE deposit address. Next one is unknown, next one is Mt. Gox user, next one is unknown early miner, Mt. Gox cold storage, Mt. Gox cold storage, Mt. Gox cold storage, Mt. Gox cold storage. Next one is early miner, unknown, donation recipient, Mt. Gox deposit address, Roger Ver, and unknown early miner. While a number of these are unknown or belong to non-public entities, this is clearly not a list of assets held in some trust. Even a single address claimed but apparently belonging to someone else would be a big red flag. And here we have more than a handful of cases I can very confidently state have nothing to do with Wright. Further, several of the addresses did not yet exist or hold any bitcoins as of the purported date of the document, October 2012, with many of them not showing up until mid-2013. The Mt. Gox cold storage addresses are the same that became known as the lost and found 200,000 Bitcoin. Speaking of Mt. Gox, both Wright and Nguyen had accounts there. Number 433,804 and 465,042 respectively. Wright registered and used his account for a bit in order to buy bitcoins in April 2013, which he later withdrew and sent a few $1,000s worth to Nguyen and a few $100s worth to 1933PH, above possibly an attempt to make a blockchain connection. Nguyen's account was registered later in 2013. Its only Bitcoin deposits are from Craig Wright. By any standard, both of these accounts are small and unremarkable compared to those big Bitcoiners. Most big Bitcoiners. Scans worth of shit. In conclusion, most of these addresses actually have only one thing in common, which is a big clue to why they're in the list. They at some point held significant amounts of Bitcoin in them. This isn't some grand conspiracy having stolen 1 million Bitcoins. It's some guy browsing a blockchain rich list, picking out a couple of addresses at random and saying, "I own those," for whatever reasons, while offering no evidence except for some clumsy document backdating. These claims would never have gotten past an actual specialist. While the lawsuit is a nonsensical fight over unrelated funds that never belong to either party, it offers the rest of us a valuable reminder of how you'll easily get taken advantage of if you don't follow the number one rule of Bitcoin. Don't trust, verify. Put simply, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Fortunately, thanks to Bitcoin, and now as easily as a single cryptographic, that's now as easy as a single cryptographic signature. Funny how Wright has never provided one. Not funny at all, just realistic. If the guy provides one, he indicates, "Yes, I'm Satoshi, come kill me or arrest me or tax me." If he isn't, then yeah, there you go. You have as much proof as you had to begin with. Personally, I don't believe that Craig Wright is Satoshi Nakamoto, only because of the things that he has proposed afterward. You know, I wondered where people were getting this claim, or this number rather, of 1 gigabyte blocks. That's actually been proven to work, but I understand why a lot of people would think that that would take out a significant number of people that are currently participating in the Bitcoin ecosystem. And what Craig was actually proposing as a solution for this was proprietary hardware, or at least that was the impression I got from the presentation he gave. That is wholly antithetical to everything Bitcoin. It exchanges the problem of a third-party arbiter via software with a third-party arbiter via hardware, not entirely unlike the situation that we're currently in with regard to ASICs. So that kind of kicked him out of the running for who is Satoshi Nakamoto as far as I'm concerned, because that would take something that was meant for everybody and put it in the hands of only a few people. And that to me isn't Satoshi Nakamoto. That's some asshole trying to get in a gateway that he can personally monopolize, or at least capitalize on for a short duration of time before he gets subsumed by a bigger player or somebody buys him out. One of the two. You know, that's the situation Poloniex found themselves in, where they ended up insolvent for some duration of time, had to cover some shit, and in the background they negotiated away some of their stake, and some more of their stake, and some more of their stake. And I would wager that they got caught and margin called on this latest Bitcoin dip, as Goldman Sachs probably did as well. And so, you know, now they're looking for more cups to stuff the non-money under and shift around to keep the regulators busy while they cover up the fact that they got wrecked. You know, and of course the Lightning Network business could not come at a better time for them, because, you know, they might only have, like, you know, 10,000 Bitcoin, and that would sound like a lot in the hands of somebody like me or somebody like you, but in the hands of Goldman Sachs, it's a tiny, tiny, tiny amount of their spreadsheet. So, you know, they having multiple how should I say this? I think that what they plan is this, that they'll have payment channels for like thousands of Bitcoin, right? And as they get filled with people's Bitcoin, they'll be borrowing against the full amount, right? I don't know if that tracks 100%, but I think what'll end up happening is they'll be counting those coins on multiple spreadsheets, basically, as the underlying value. That's what I think. And they're counting on months and months and months worth of transactions to be happening to paper over their fraud with, I don't know, maybe fiat differential, you know, from when they initially start the payment channel or the valuation over it, you know, like the abstraction of value they've built on top of it, you know, the tokens they've issued for some sort of, I don't know, Ethereum kind of chain kind of thing, where, you know, we have a volume of Ethereum, right? And you offer that as the base for your token, and people give you more Ethereum to buy the token. Well, what if you never had the Ethereum to begin with? They would just be filling the hole that you created with your tokens. Hole in your balance sheet, that is. But see, I think that once we start getting off-chain, that opens up the possibility for derivatives on that same value of Bitcoin to be dumped into it by you that would be devoted to other things that you might not necessarily support. And that's one of the aspects of trust that's eliminated with Bitcoin. The fucking transaction goes through or the transaction doesn't go through. You know, once you start taking it off chain, now it goes through when the payment channel is closed. It's no longer a matter of when your transaction is actually included into a block, but in the mempool, registered as actually having happened, observable by everyone on planet Earth. That aspect of it is completely taken out. And so it's a matter of, again, when that third party does close out the payment channel. And whether that's happening automatically when the funds are consumed in it, I couldn't fucking tell you. I don't know. But these are big question marks that aren't really answered in all of the documentation materials that I've read. There may be answers out there. I just haven't found them yet. Please feel free to post them on my Twitter. I'll be more than happy to read them. You know, it's like I tell people that Lightning networks are actually going to be slower than Bitcoin, and they don't understand why. That to me tells me that they're being lied to. You know, that these facts are being just omitted from all of the little sales pitches that they're receiving. You know, I keep having to make this point to people that supposedly know this shit, are experienced enough in it to consider Lightning a good thing, or make a decision, an educated decision on that. You know, supposedly they are, but I keep having to tell them, no, Lightning is actually slower than Bitcoin. It's slower than Bitcoin by default. Anyway, this whole Craig Wright business, I wouldn't claim to be Satoshi Nakamoto if I was, and I doubt that he is. Again, because gigabyte blocks, think about that. Do you know how much transactive activity you have to have happening in a 10-minute period of time to need a gigabyte to fit all the transactions in? I mean, we average about 3,000 transactions per megabyte now. Okay, so times that by 1,000. There aren't that many fucking Bitcoin transactions happening. I mean, as a matter of fact, I don't think there's that much fucking transactive activity ever going to happen on planet Earth, or at least not within the foreseeable future on the Bitcoin network. So again, why we're even talking about gigabyte blocks is fucking beyond me. Why is anybody even entertaining that bullshit? I mean, you can take out the idea right now that Bitcoin is ever going to replace all of the cryptocurrencies out there. It's never going to happen. They exist because people want them to exist. Not because of some leader on high said that coin can exist and that coin can exist and that ICO can exist and that project on Ethereum can exist. No. It was because somebody said, you know what? I really like Bitcoin, but I find that there's some fundamental flaws in it. You know, like I don't like this 10-minute confirmation time thing. I want to reduce that confirmation time down to 30 seconds. And I'm going to keep the 1 megabyte block size. So that's a full fucking megabyte to be occupied in 30 seconds, not 10 minutes. 30 seconds. Now sure, that's going to cause the blockchain to get bigger quicker. But you're not going to have to worry about scaling anytime soon. I mean, there's all kinds of tweaks that can be adjusted on the metrics of Bitcoin. So again, the idea that we're going to be forcibly locked into using Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency is complete fucking fallacy. These currencies will continue to be spawned, will continue to come into creation, completely original ideas soon enough that are not dependent on Bitcoin in any way, shape, or form, just like the 1,000 that have come before them. Or it's probably closer to 10,000 that have come and only 1,000 that remain. But we will continue to see more of them. And they will all have their own tweaks on the value proposition of why you should use their coin over other coins. And that's going to be the real competition point. This idea that you can just tell people your shit is better. No. When they experience that your shit isn't as good as the other shit that they could be using, they're not going to use your shit. They're going to use somebody else's shit. The better shit. And that's because we have choice. And there's not going to be anybody that's ever going to change that. I don't care how they try and change it. It's just not going to be effective. If they lock down the internet somehow, that all transactions are monitored and found as they're happening, whatever. We'll find an off-chain way to transact. I'll go take my paper wallet to somebody and we'll do a direct cash exchange based on the current value at the moment of exchange. And there it is. We've exchanged ownership of the coins. I don't have them anymore. I have something else that you're not monitoring or that you don't know that I have. And that's that. There goes all the good of all your fucking regulation bullshit. And sooner or later, we are going to face all of these issues. And we're going to come up to the same point that we've been coming up to for the last, 5 years that governments have tried to figure out how to fucking regulate this shit. They're going to continue to be unsuccessful because, as I said, adoption is continuing to increase while they're twiddling their thumbs. And adoption is also including people they know, people they are related to, people that are above them in the fucking the chain of authority in their department or organization. And that person is saying, we really don't need to regulate cryptocurrencies because, of course, they're making an ass load of money right now trading cryptocurrency, so they don't want that money taken away from them any more than anyone else does. So why should we even be talking about trying to negotiate some of their boodle out of their hands? Let them spend it into the economy rather than trying to seize it from them. There's always this perception that you can control an economy, and you can't. You can control some aspects of the economy, but all the aspects that you can't control are going to continue to proliferate. And as you try and contain your markets even further and regulate them even more harshly, get a bigger cut of that boodle, you're going to drive more commerce into those aspects of commerce that you cannot regulate, that you cannot seize from. Your job now, whether you be a government or a company or a merchant or a user or a whatever, is to be better. If you're a better consumer, you've got a higher rating maybe, you don't cancel your transactions behind people's backs as quickly as you possibly can, you should probably get some sort of higher rating so that people will want to do business with you. And it's not a matter of coercion whether they can't do business with you because some law says that they can't. Rather, let people do business with whoever they want to do business with. And they will find out whether or not they want to do business with those people through things that they read in social media. Perspectives that you have. Sorry, your money is no good with me because I don't agree with X. I have the option to choose other currencies. I'm not going to choose yours. This choice can be made by all participants. It's not just limited to the users of a cryptocurrency. It's the people all around them. Because really, what good is your cryptocurrency if nobody's going to accept it for any reason? Whether that be trading online, of course, because we all do that, or actually selling goods and services in exchange for cryptocurrencies as the medium of monetary value or monetary exchange. That stuff has all become completely optional. And now that they're as interchangeable as they are, there's really not any reason not to use any specific coin other than you choose not to. Just as there is